Some of you may have noticed, many others may have assumed it's just always been this way. Either way, recently fire scenes in and around Milwaukee have featured a new, well, look, if you will.
Yeah, it's one which involves complete collaboration. And as our Justin Williams shows us, several southeastern Wisconsin communities feel it fits pretty well.
Before we share the story about fire departments sharing services, we think it's important that we share our aim, which is simply to introduce you to the concept of fire departments in southeastern Wisconsin sharing services from the perspective of the chiefs involved.
911 operator 01, where is your emergency?
Fire 3 here, we're responding.
I've literally seen people hanging out the window, and they've never yelled, "What fire department are you from?"
Obviously, if someone's in dire need of help, their concerns do not include from where the help is coming, only that it's there when they need it.
We do 80,000 calls a year.
It is this premise that has these Milwaukee area fire chiefs saying there is safety.
We're right there, we're able to help each other, and there's no reason why we shouldn't.
In sharing.
And it's been proven around the country that systems that have seamless borders and joint dispatch centers and joint training work great.
Now, what was once a rare sight, having these 7 shield scenes sharing a single space,
So, thank you.
has gotten increasingly common the past couple of years.
I know, I get it.
With the start of a shared services strategy.
Sometimes we have to, as professionals, align our services with what the public expects. And what they want is a fast response by professional responders, and the name on the side generally doesn't matter.
Under a 2014 agreement, the fire departments of St. Francis, Greenfield, West Allis, Wauwatosa, Oak Creek, the North Shore, and Milwaukee have agreed to work together to make emergency situations safer.
We decided to do what was right and what was the best way and rely on each other.
One dispatch center has to contact the other dispatch center and say, are you available? Can you send them?
Upon arrival, the crews worked together, assuming the appropriate roles in supporting the collective effort to save lives and property.
The shared services, the firehouses that Milwaukee has along our borders, allows us to use their resources just as reciprocally we go into their city.
So this has changed the dynamics and the culture that we're working with today.
But it's not completely unheard of. In fact, for decades, the Milwaukee Fire Department joined forces with fire personnel in neighboring communities in working under an agreement which had departments assisting each other at calls on either side of their municipal borders.
We did mutual aid with the city of Milwaukee. They would come to our fires, and on very, very rare occasions we'd go there. And then I was here when the change happened, and Milwaukee no longer worked with the suburbs unless we were willing to pay fairly high fees to get service from them.
Those fees would prove frustrating enough. Then there were the cultural differences which can come between bigger and smaller departments.
I think years ago the cultural thought pattern was a little bit different. It was our way or the highway. No one could do it this way.
And ultimately, no one did, as the suburban departments decided to go it alone for many years.
The suburbs had always worked well together.
But this led to extremely inefficient responses during the past few decades because municipal borders became a primary consideration in determining how area fire crews responded to emergency service calls.
If we had a fire on our side of the border, Milwaukee didn't come across. And if they had a fire on their side of the border, we didn't go across.
Even if we were really close?
Even if we were really close. It didn't make any sense. And it didn't make any sense to the citizens because they would ask me, we've got a station right next door. Why didn't they help?
We wouldn't use any of the resources that were closest to us, so we would get distant resources. You know, literally a North Shore fire engine would drive all the way through the city of Milwaukee to get to Greenfield.
And even fast forward up to the Patrick Cudahy fire, is the early on crews for the city of Milwaukee weren't involved right away when they were only blocks away.
Fast forward further to a few years ago when a couple of newly named fire chiefs started a conversation.
Right away when I got here, you know, and I asked, why aren't we working together? Why don't we do more together?
Months later, Milwaukee Fire Chief Mark Rolfing's questions had company in Wauwatosa, where new Chief Robert Ugasti says he was making similar inquiries.
I had a few people, not my staff, but some of the firefighters say, Chief, it'll never work.
But Yagasti says he had spent 31 years with the Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire District in northeastern Illinois, where it had worked, and well.
We were used to working with our neighbors. We all worked together.
So Chief Yagasti says he contacted Chief Ralphing, and the discussion started. Then it grew to include other chiefs who were also interested in improving response times and sharing resources such as equipment and personnel.
Now, you can't just flip a switch one day and do that. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of organization. You need to standardize procedures and protocols to make sure that when you get there, you're all operating off of the same playbook.
From the start, there were a few potential problems, including a payment plan, public perception, and politics. First, the money.
The services are provided. Every department is responsible for their own firefighters, their own crews, and there is no money changing hands.
As for the taxpaying public, well, the chiefs say folks seem to understand that while the shared services strategy centers on safety.
If I'm up at North and my med units on the north side are gone and a North Shore med unit can get to an advanced life support call in 2 minutes and I have to send a south side unit that'll take 6, what's better for our citizen?
The savings are also significant.
We used to do confined space entry. We used to do hazardous materials. We did rope rescue. Those are all very expensive things to train for, to stay proficient in. It doesn't make sense for every community in this county to have those teams. Milwaukee has all of those teams. Now we tap into their resources.
And when it comes to their respective political leaders, the chiefs say they're supported.
We're really fortunate that we didn't have a political battle to fight.
But there was a bit of a battle when it came to culture.
The veteran firefighters just kind of crossed their arms and stood back and watched. And you could see the attitude. And after 4 years now, when they get together, you would never know they're on different departments. You would never know those issues used to exist. They intermingle, they talk, they laugh together.
Meanwhile, the different departments continue their efforts to equalize everyone's interest, explaining each has their proverbial skin in the game.
We have St. Francis on the small end, Milwaukee on the big end, but that skin's got to be proportionate to what you can provide and what's fair. And if it becomes unfair, we need to work that out.
They're already working on a more streamlined training system while continuing to address communication complications and putting some focus on becoming more familiar.
This cooperative effort has broken down all those barriers.
The question of countywide consolidation has come up, but North Shore Fire Chief Robert Whitaker, whose department is itself the result of consolidation, explains that is not the aim of this effort.
This is the direction that the communities would rather go and keep identities sort of separate.
The different departments are still dealing with all the details, but I'm told that already a suburban fire chief is being invited to all Milwaukee fire responses. It's part of an effort to get all the chiefs familiar with Milwaukee's command structure so that everyone is better prepared when the services need to be shared. That is the latest from southeastern Wisconsin. I'm Justin Williams, Fox 6 News.